Berlin, April 1945. Above ground, the city burns. Below it, in the concrete maze of the Vorbunker, the Third Reich reaches its final hours. After the war, one question remains. What becomes of the place where Adolf Hitler spends his last days? The answer is stranger than expected, a story of demolition, denial, and quiet erasure. The story of Hitler's bunker begins not in 1945, but nearly a decade earlier. In 1936, as Berlin was preparing for the Olympic Games, engineers from the Reich Chancellery began constructing an underground air raid shelter beneath the Chancellery Garden on Wilhelmstrasse. It was modest in size, built primarily for protection from aerial attacks. But by 1943, with Allied bombings intensifying, the bunker was expanded and reinforced. The new lower complex, the Vorbunker, was completed in early 1944. It consisted of roughly 30 rooms connected by narrow corridors, protected by nearly 4 meters of reinforced concrete. 2 stairways linked it to the upper Vorbunker and the Chancellery above. By the start of 1945, Hitler's empire was collapsing. On the 16th of January 1945, he and his inner circle, including Martin Bormann, Joseph Goebbels, and secretaries Trottel, Jung, and Gerda Christian, retreated into the bunker. The upper Vorbunker served as living quarters for staff and guards, while the lower level became the heart of Hitler's final command post. It held a conference room, telephone exchange, map room, and his personal study. The air was heavy, the corridors narrow and claustrophobic. Reports from those present described flickering lights, poor ventilation, and constant dampness from groundwater seepage. Life inside the bunker grew increasingly desperate. Hitler spent long hours poring over maps, issuing orders to armies that no longer existed. Outside, Soviet artillery closed in. By April 20th, his 56th birthday, shells were already falling on the Chancellery Garden. Eva Braun joined him underground permanently soon after. Witnesses recall an eerie blend of routine and despair. Daily military briefings, hurried meals, and the occasional playing of gramophone music. On the 29th of April 1945, as Soviet troops advanced within blocks of the Reich Chancellery, Hitler married Eva Braun in a brief civil ceremony in the bunker's small conference room. That same night, he dictated his political testament, blaming Germany's defeat on his generals and declaring his loyalty to the cause that had destroyed Europe. The following day, the 30th of April 1945, he took his own life in his private study alongside Braun. Their bodies were carried up to the garden and burned by staff under Bormann's orders as Soviet shells thundered nearby. In the days that followed, Goebbels and his family also died in the bunker complex. On the 2nd of May 1945, the remaining occupants attempted to flee or surrendered to Soviet forces. When the Red Army reached the ruins of the Chancellery, they found only charred remains, fragments of documents, and the wreckage of what had been the nerve center of Nazi Germany. The Soviets quickly secured the site and began investigations to confirm Hitler's death. For years afterward, they kept their findings secret, fueling rumors that Hitler had escaped. When the guns finally fell silent in May 1945, Berlin was a wasteland. The Reich Chancellery lay in ruins, its grand marble halls now piles of rubble. Beneath it, the Vorbunker still stood, damaged but structurally intact. Soviet troops discovered the entrance while clearing debris and immediately sealed off the area. To them, the site was both evidence and embarrassment, the last refuge of a defeated dictator. What followed was a mix of secrecy, destruction, and political control. In May and June 1945, Soviet forensic teams, led by Smer's military counterintelligence, entered the bunker to recover remains and documents. They photographed rooms, mapped the layout, and gathered fragments of burned papers. The discovery of dental remains believed to be Hitler's confirmed to them that he had died there, though Stalin publicly denied it. For the Soviets' ambiguity served propaganda. It kept the myth of Hitler's escape alive while highlighting Western intelligence failures. The complex itself posed a different challenge. Berlin, now divided into occupation zones, was being rebuilt from the ashes. Soviets decided the Chancellery should be erased. Between 1945 and 1949, Demolition crews systematically destroyed the above-ground buildings, first by hand and later with explosives. Their goal was not only practical, clearing ruins for reconstruction, but symbolic, the physical annihilation of Nazi power's center. In December 1947, Soviet engineers attempted to blow up the underground bunker network. The explosion tore open parts of the upper levels, but failed to destroy the reinforced lower chambers. Some corridors flooded, others were filled with rubble. After several more attempts, the Soviets gave up. The site was buried under debris and forgotten, though rumors persisted of secret tunnels stretching beneath Berlin. By the early 1950s, the East German government inherited the area within its sector, keen to suppress anything that could become a shrine for sympathizers. It imposed silence. No public signs marked the location. Official maps simply omitted it. Nearby streets were renamed, and the ruins of the Chancellery Garden were flattened and turned into a nondescript stretch of wasteland. Even mentioning the bunker was discouraged. It was to vanish from memory as well as from sight, yet the bunker's ghost lingered. Allied investigators and journalists tried to access it, often relying on secondhand Soviet reports. Early post-war publications like Hugh Trevor-Oper's The Last Days of Hitler, 1947, drew heavily on these limited accounts, cementing the image of a subterranean tomb beneath the ruins of Berlin. By the late 1950s, the site had vanished from view. The ruins of the Reich Chancellery were cleared, the bunker entrances sealed, and East Berlin rebuilt over the area. Housing blocks and streets replaced the shattered government quarter, leaving the bunker buried and out of sight as the city moved on. In the 1960s, as Berlin became the epicenter of Cold War tension, the fore-bunker remained hidden beneath the new East German capital. Officially, it no longer existed. In reality, sections of it still lay under layers of concrete and rubble, quietly preserved by the very soil that was meant to erase it. Few East Germans knew its exact location, and those who did, mainly city planners and construction crews, were under strict instruction not to speak of it. The area above the bunker, once the garden of the Reich Chancellery, fell within East Berlin's government quarter. When the Berlin Wall was built in 1961, it ran only a few hundred meters away, further isolating the site from public access. For the East German regime, the last thing they wanted was a monument to Hitler's final days within their socialist showcase city. The strategy was simple: bury it, build over it, and forget it. During the 1960s and 70s, construction workers occasionally stumbled upon reinforced walls or sections of the old bunker network. Each time, authorities quickly sealed the openings. One major discovery occurred in 1973 during the building of apartment blocks along Vostrace. Engineers accidentally broke through part of the lower fore-bunker chambers. Rather than excavate or document it, the East German Ministry of State Security Stasi ordered the remaining rooms filled with sand and cement. Western historians operating from divided Berlin could only speculate. Rumors spread through both Germany's and abroad. Some claimed the Soviets had preserved parts of the bunker for secret study. Others said the entire structure had been obliterated. Throughout the Cold War, East German propaganda avoided mentioning Hitler's last days or the bunker. School textbooks skipped over it entirely. The regime's focus was on anti-fascism and socialist progress, not on the ruins of dictatorship lying beneath their feet. But in the West, fascination persisted. Western journalists and tourists visiting Berlin often asked where Hitler's bunker had stood, only to be met with shrugs or evasive answers. In the late 1980s, as East Germany approached collapse, its capital began another wave of reconstruction. City plans were modernized, and some older districts were mapped more precisely. It was then that historians realized how much of the bunker had survived under the surface. Though heavily damaged and flooded, the reinforced concrete shells still existed. When the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, a buried past resurfaced. As East and West Berlin merged, construction boomed across the city. Bulldozers and survey teams revisited long-ignored plots, including the former Reich Chancellery Garden. In 1990, engineers unexpectedly uncovered sections of the fore-bunker S, reinforced walls and stairwells. They found flooded corridors, twisted metal doors, and fragments of wartime fittings. For historians, it was a rare physical link to one of history's most infamous sites. For the new German government, it posed a moral dilemma: how to deal with the last remnant of Hitler's final refuge. The early 1990s were marked by intense debate. Some argued that the bunker should be excavated and documented before redevelopment. Erased it completely. Others warned that opening it risked turning the site into a neo-Nazi pilgrimage ground. Berlin's city planners chose the latter path. No monument, no museum, no memorial. The ruins were quietly sealed again in 1992 as new apartment buildings and car parks rose above them. The only trace left visible was an unmarked patch of gravel between modern buildings. Still, curiosity persisted. Historians pieced together the site's layout using wartime blueprints and Soviet photographs. Journalists and documentary filmmakers tracked its shifting legacy. In the late 1990s, the exact coordinates of the bunker became public, sparking a wave of dark tourism. In 2006, ahead of the FIFA World Cup, Berlin installed a small information panel at the edge of the site. The display offered a factual, minimal explanation of the bunker's history, along with diagrams showing its position under the surrounding buildings. It was the first official acknowledgement of the site, designed to inform without glorifying. Historians still debate how much of the lower levels survive. Estimates suggest around 15 to 20% of the original concrete shell remains buried. In 2016, Berlin's Story Museum opened a reconstruction of parts of the Vorbunker inside a former air raid shelter a short distance away. The exhibit features replica rooms, including Hitler's working quarters, as well as models, documents, and eyewitness accounts explaining the bunker's design and daily use in 1945. It is not the authentic bunker, but it provides a controlled, factual way for visitors to understand how the complex once looked. Today, the bunker survives only as a hidden footprint beneath modern Berlin, sealed, silent, and stripped of symbolism. What was once the regime's final refuge has become part of the everyday city above it, a reminder that history's darkest places can fade from view while their lessons endure. If you found this video insightful, watch what happened to German U-boats after WW2. Next, a deep look at how the U-boat fleet was captured, studied, and scattered across the world in the aftermath of the war. Like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell for more history inside. Thanks for watching. See you next time.